Okay. Okay. Well, good morning. Hope everyone had a good weekend. Uh, got plenty of rain, or not too much rain. I'm going to go over a proposed agenda for today and how we'll proceed, and then we'll just we can ad lib from there. But at first, I'd like to recap the last meeting, and then second, I'd like to discuss future meeting dates. We tend to save that to the end. So we can see if we can go ahead and get that out the way, so we can start planning logistically for those meetings and whatever we'll need to do for those meetings. And then we'll talk about some information from the last meeting from there. In recapping the last meeting, we were able to get several things done with the TA. Several articles were done and agreed to a few more there. And we did discuss schedule several future meeting dates, and that continued a bit after that meeting, and we have a proposed schedule. And then the union proposed some definition section, and we felt like we needed a definition section for the articles. And then there were some proposed counters or holds by the union, and I'll read those out to see if we're accurate on them. One was Article 4, management rights. Article 6, union business. Article 7, seniority promotions, demotions, and transfers. Article 13, vacations and holidays. And Article 26, temporary promotions. And I think you've already done it, but I was going to ask if you would submit all those as one document, but look like you've done that already. What you've just given Sheree, I'm not sure if you have or not on that. So does that match up pretty much with the articles that we're going to counter on?
We've got counters today for, I guess, Article 10, Article 6, Article 10, Union Business 6, 10, Safety Committees,
6.
and then 23 hours in overtime, and then 26 temporary promotions.
Okay, one more time, Joe. Which ones?
I've got Article 6, Union Business, Article 10, Health and Safety, Article 23, hours in overtime, and Article 26, temporary promotions.
Okay. So no Article 4. You have Article 6. You don't, no Article 7 yet.
We do have Article 4 on here.
Or you do have 4?
Yes, sir. 4 and 5.
4 and 5.
4 and 6.
4 and 6 done.
Yeah, we've got them on the flash drive.
Okay.
Article 10, 23, and
26.
Yes, sir.
Was there something on 7? 7, 13, 7 and 13.
We don't have anything on 7 for today. And then 13. I believe we were going to hold, or we agreed to hold until later, because we had requested another holiday.
Okay.
We were going to go, I believe my notes say we were going to work on that for later.
The holiday.
Holiday, vacations and holiday, it's Article 13.
Okay, that's 13, the holiday. So 13 and 7 are the only two outstanding, according to, just trying to make sure we're on the same.
Well, there's a few more outstanding that we're going to hold to the end, but for today, I believe that's it for today.
Okay. But to be clear, we want to look at these, but we want to look at them holistically, not look at one here and one there, because if we're going to come up with something that we both agree on, we need to look at the entire package of what we're dealing with rather than going through one article here. That might impact something later. So we need them all at some point together.
Because we had talked about holding the pay till the end because there's a pension issue on that one. We talked about the incentives and education pay, combining them into one article and holding that for later.
Yeah, I think we were holding the pay till later. I don't know, to the end. I think it's too important just to hold totally to the end. At some point, we got to start talking about it.
No, I agree. But we agreed to just move that back a little bit.
Smooth that back. Is that an El Paso term? Okay.
Yes, it is.
Okay, I
just made it up right now.
I understand. Okay. All righty. So we seem to be clear on that part of it, everything clear on our end. Okay, can we go with future meeting dates, again, while it's fresh on everybody's mind?
There is a typo, and I'm not sure if it's in your email, but instead of December 4th, it should be December 5th. The 4th is not available, but the 5th is available from 9 to noon.
So the 2nd and the 3rd are available.
2nd, 3rd, so the dates would be December 2nd all day, December 3rd from 9 to noon, December 5th from 9 to noon, December 6th all day, December 10th all day, and December 11th all day.
December 6th, you said 9 to noon?
All day.
All day? And then you said December 10th and December 11th,
All day.
all day?
Yes, sir.
Okay. December 2nd and 3rd would work together. And the 4th is not available at all?
No. Just the 5th.
The 5th and the 6th?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I guess for now, we can tentatively agree to all of them. December 11th may have to be a half day. But for now, we can agree on all of them. And then I'll get back to you because there's a gap, from the 3rd to the 5th.
Okay.
I'll need to get clearance on that from
Okay.
my boss.
No problem. Keeping in mind that the impasse date is the 9th.
Yes, and then,
So we would need to have an agreement in place by the 6th. So if we needed to meet on the 6th.
if we meet on the 2nd and 3rd, we can take care of it then. If we're able to combine all the dates, then we can take care of it at that point.
Okay. So I will just, I'll schedule us to have an impasse document available at the 5th to be executed at the 6th meeting. How does that work? Okay.
And if I don't get authorization, then we'll do it on the 3rd. How's that?
I guess so
Right now, I can commit to the 2nd and 3rd consecutive dates. I have authorization for that.
Okay.
I'll need to check with my boss because we're not meeting on the 4th. And then we've got the 5th and 6th available.
okay.
So I'll need to get an okay from my boss that I'm able to complete that assignment with a day off in between.
Okay.
And
It's just,
the 3rd is definitely just a half day that morning.
Yeah, the 3rd is definitely, we have council that afternoon.
Yeah.
Okay. We'll work on those dates.
but for now, let's tentatively schedule them, and then I'll get back with a confirmation, Mr. Williams.
Okay, sounds good. And you've been going with city attorney's office on those dates, that works well for me.
Okay, yes, sir. I'll get with Ms. Reed.
Okay, next item is information, clarifying some information from last meeting, and I'm going to ask the city attorney to address that.
So at the last meeting, there was some, I guess, like talk about vacancies and minimum staffing, and then the assistant chief being added to the wage table. So just from working from the bottom up, in asking about the wage table for the second time at the last meeting, it was just so we can add the wage table, not the percentages, but just add that addition to the wage table as a TA. At the October 8th meeting, the transcript showed that, and I can pull it up, hold on.
Was this adding the title of assistant chief to the?
It was just to add it. So we specifically asked if the assistant chief should be added to the wage table. Mr. Newsom said yes, that was not an issue. Mr. Tell said yes. This is also provided to parties on November 8th. We would just like to clarify if that's no longer the agreement, why, and have a discussion at some point about that. But it was previously agreed to, and we were just, again, trying to make sure that we can add it to the wage table.
We discussed it also on the 6th, last meeting as well.
Yeah, so we discussed it at the last meeting. It was determined that was not happening. So if that's not something that the union wants to agree to, we would, again, like to understand why, considering the assistant chief is a member of the bargaining unit.
So we have a couple of things about it. So as far as the step raise, right now, we're holding off on the step raise if it was on there. But the main thing is that we have a question about raises in general, being that there's language in the contract that says that the city sets the base pay of that assistant chief position.
So the city sets the base pay for grade ones as well. We essentially, we set the base wage for all employees, for all employees. So even the base wage for a firefighter, grade one is set by the city, and those individuals are according to the base wage. So because the assistant chief is a employee, we set the base wage for that, but he's still a part of the bargaining unit, so he's still entitled to increases as well.
I must be misunderstanding, because we're here to bargain the wages of the firefighters, and that's from start to 1 year, and we are bargaining that today. So of what the raises for those positions will be, that's, in my experience, that's never been something that you guys unilaterally decided. It was something that we bargained.
But we've always set the wages for the assistant chief. That's why it's in the contract.
We'll discuss that on our caucus. We'll have a word for you later today.
Perfect. The next thing, or the next big thing, was there was a discussion about the minimum staffing in dispatch. So it's our understanding that the minimum staffing has always been at 2, and that it was increased to 3 to address calls during COVID. And since those have been decreased, it resumed its minimum staffing back to 2. So it's our understanding that the department is currently operating at its minimum staffing of 2, which has been its history. So the 3 was a step increase, and so it's been reduced back to 2. The next thing was vacancies. There are currently, by our calculations, 17 vacancies in the department. In March of 2024, we added 9 additional positions that were taken from EMS in the city's effort to convert those positions to sworn. In April of 2024, we added an additional 12. That's a total of 21 total positions that have been added to the department since 2021. From 2023 until present, the department has had approximately 36 separations. That includes retirements, resignations, and retirements. And And so right now, the vacancies, again, are floating at around 17, but that's supported by the fact that we have, again, added 12 positions in 2024. Since 2021, since we started adding those positions, we've dramatically increased the number of tests that we're hosting each year. I believe we've had 17 exams for entry level and 6 promotional exams as well. So the city is, in fact, doing their part to increase our visibility, both in recruiting new members to fill those vacancies. So again, hear the concerns, but the vacancy number is actually, again, around 17, and that's based on the number that we're adding. Really can't do anything about retirements. The numbers we show is that most of the numbers come from retirement. There were a few people who unilaterally left to go to a different job, but most of them are retirements.
So, so the 17 vacancies are at the firefighter level, at the,
We only pull
Any?
sworn. Yeah, we only pull sworn. So of the 12, I believe we had, I think there's 2 people starting, so there's actually only 10 of the 12 left. And then we had some separations. So the separations make up the additional vacancies.
so you said the vacancies are floating at around 17.
Yes, sir. And then some of the, again, just from this past month, some of the grade 1 vacancies are due to promotions as well.
And all your hires were done on the original entry examination?
Yes,
Okay.
per the contract.
That would be 21, you said?
So we have a total of 21 added since 2021 by ordinance, and we have a total of 17 vacancies. 10 of those vacancies are the 12 that were added in April, and the other ones are a combination of promotions and resignations.
Okay. But, I mean, the vacancies we're discussing are at the grade 1 at the firefighter entry level, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yeah, so
All the other.
so whenever, yes, so
okay.
when someone's promoted, that creates a vacancies in the grade 1. It all trickles up.
So right now, there's not a hole somewhere, like in a captain or lieutenant or however you designate your ranks. They're all filled. They're all at the beginning.
Yes, sir.
Step 1. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Just a question about this on the number of employees that we have. Beaumont Fire Department as a whole is budgeted for approximately 305 people. I realize that includes some support staff, and I realize that includes some secretaries and stuff that are not civil service. How many employees does Beaumont Fire Department actually have right now?
I can check.
It's a concern of mine because we're talking about 17 positions short or 12 positions short.
That was in reference to the grade 1 positions in comment yesterday, or at the last meeting, about creating a hole somewhere else.
I understand. I'll tell you, just full disclosure, the direction I'm going is that we have ambulances that are not staffed. EMS, the EMS side of Beaumont Fire Department is extremely low. And so when we talk about trying to eliminate overtime, if we were to hire 17 people right now, that's not going to eliminate the overtime because we have ambulances and stuff, and there's vacancies on that side. So we are budgeted as a fire department as a whole for over 300 people. But I believe, if I'm right in this, that we're only around the 250 area, but I would like for you to please confirm that number.
Okay, so just to be clear, the overtime conversation came into as it relates to minimum staffing and dispatch. The conversation about vacancies was a concern as it relates to adding an additional assistant chief. So I think that those are 2 different conversations, but I will get those numbers for you.
Right. Again, I'm just, we want to address the overtime. So I'm looking at the department as a whole. The department as a whole is budgeted for over 300 people. And, knowing right now here in the room what the total number of actual employees with Beaumont Fire Department would be extremely helpful.
Will do.
Any other comments? Anyone?
No, I just had a question. Ms. Reed mentioned something about amending the ground rules to allow us to meet longer. I believe there's already language in there that says by mutual consent, we can
Yes, sir.
end or extend.
So far, it's scheduled for 4 hours, but I've checked the availability of all the important people, and we're all able to go all day with a lunch break, of course, if that works for the union.
I was just talking about amending the ground rules. I didn't see a need that we needed to do that because there's
No, so
language in there.
No, so
already.
just a verbal amendment on the record that we agree to go past 4 hours is
Yeah,
sufficient.
if we need more time, yes, of course.
Okay.
Yes. Also, I had a question. Some of these proposals involved policy, and I know in the ground rules you mentioned we wouldn't be discussing policy.
So I don't want to debate policy, but obviously I think it's important to understand that as the contract changes, the policy will change. One of the fundamental reasons we added or proposed that we add an operationals committee is for that reason. But I don't think we should get into debating policy or negotiating policy at this time. But we do understand that changing the contract will change policy. I think that's just a fundamental fallout.
So we can discuss policy as it pertains to, let's say, a proposal. For
Yes,
example.
without saying that we want to change that policy. I think you can bring it up to say the current policy is, but we're not interested in, like, the chief's not at the table to say whether or not he wants us to agree that he's in the room, but I feel like that takes away some of his authority for us to decide policy on his behalf. But I understand that we might need to discuss it, or bring it up as it relates to this could impact a certain policy, but I don't want to debate policy.
Okay. We won't debate policy, we can negotiate policy.
No.
But a proposal to change policy would be a discussion on that proposal.
I guess we'd have to, I guess I'm just not understanding what you're presenting. I understand that we might have to, at some point, talk about how a particular change to the contract will impact a certain policy. It's just my basis for that is saying that we don't need to debate or discuss changing policy. I think it would be up to the chief and his cabinet to decide how that policy would need to be amended to align with the contract. That shouldn't be our decision.
True, I just, reading the ground rules, I guess when you negotiate, you discuss everything, basically. And then I just found that some of these proposals address policy, but then the ground rules said we wouldn't be discussing policy.
I think what the spirit of the ground rules means we won't negotiate policy. So we shouldn't be trying to change policy in negotiations. I think any changes we make should be contractual based with understanding that they will have policy implications.
Okay, let me. I'll put that in the memory banks.
Okay.
Yeah, can I suggest we just kind of not get hung up on the word? I think we're maybe overthinking the word policy but obviously we're negotiating over the terms of the contract. You might call some of those policies or not. I think we just cross that bridge when we get there.
Right.
And I think what Sheree's saying is there's a whole nother set of internal policies that are not the subject of the negotiations. Obviously, there may be some overlap, and if and when we have to discuss that, let's do it, but.
Yeah, because I was just doing some research on, I guess, the department as a whole, and you have a lot of policies that affect, I guess, benefits and pay. Did research on an arbitration ruling that referred to policy as part of the, I guess, award, so to speak. So my confusion was policies trickle into, I guess, a benefit slash contractual issue kind of thing. And I'm just trying to understand the workings of policies and how they affect and I guess how they trickle into the benefit or I guess that it currently exists. I don't know if I'm making myself clear.
Yeah, I think you're clear. You're clear. We're here to talk about contractual issues. Sometimes there's a gray area in doing that, but I think if it directly impacts a contractual issue, we can decide whether or not it's something we want to talk about, because what we agreed to as far as the negotiation agreement clearly states that we're not to discuss policy. We're not here to discuss policy, and both sides agreed to that. But I think there's a way to have conversations that we can get some things done.
Yeah, I just, when I read that, I thought that that limited us, that some things were strictly off limits, so to speak. But in your interpretation of us being able to discuss issues, we're not here to set policy. It's fully understandable that the chief sets policy, but there's some policies that are, I guess, provide a benefit.
Yeah, and if
I
it
guess,
gets to that point, we'll let you know.
Yeah.
We'll let you say, hey, we think there's policy, and we don't feel comfortable in talking about that part. So
Yeah,
we can
and
talk and see how we get there.
that's true. I just wanted, I didn't want to
Likewise on
limit-
your side.
Yes, sir. Okay, understood. Did you want to move over to the TAs? We were gonna,
You read my
had
mind.
some edits and some, I think there were 4 or 5 that were marked for potential TA.
Yes, so the ones on the screen are the ones that we marked for TA, and I sent those over to you. Um, It's not on. On general provisions, we added the language that says one hard copy and one electronic copy. And it already says executed copies. So we changed that language as well. On payroll deduction and dues, we added bargaining unit. On industrial fires and special operations, we renamed it industrial fires. We took out the dive team, added it under incentive. So we did add the note that incentive pay was not being TA'd. It was just being added for the purpose of proof provided, because I know that was a concern that we couldn't TA that part until it was added. So the full language from that section was added here. The next one was standby pay with the changes we proposed. The next one was grievances. All the language was changed to 15 calendar days. And then we added the section in 3A to say resolution.
Okay.
And I believe that was all the changes. And again, just for a point of clarification for the record, incentive pay is not being TA'd. We just added that so that you can see that the change was made for special operations.
So Article 10 here is shown just as an example, correct?
It's just for the purpose of showing proof that we did move the language. We took it out of industrial fires, and Mr. Neeson at the last meeting said that he wanted to make sure that it was added under incentive pay with the wording.
So we'll move that language from industrial fires into incentive pay, and incentive pay is still on hold pending further discussion.
That is correct, and that's the note that was added.
Okay. So we're good to TA Article 5, general provisions with the edits.
Okay.
Payroll deduction with the addition of bargaining unit.
Yes, sir.
Special operations, right? We're gonna,
It's called industrial fires now.
that'll be the only article we're teeing on there.
Yes, sir.
We're skipping incentive pays for now,
Correct.
and we are TAing standby pay,
Yes, sir.
and then the grievance procedure.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Okay. We'll get the documents. We'll get the documents executed and provide copies for the record.
Want me to sign here? Okay. Sign, right?
Yes, sir.
That's it? Thank you. Just explain them. Yeah. Cool.
Cody, are the definitions on the document, on the jump job that you gave me?
No, we started working on the definitions. I think that's probably something we're going to have to keep working on.
That's correct. We're still working on definitions. We don't have anything prepared to present for today.
Okay, so I believe that there were a couple of them that we were holding for definitions. So I believe management rights were one of them. And promotions. So we'll take those off and hold those. And I think that there were some other ones in Senate Pay that we were holding for definition, so we won't discuss those today if that works for y'all.
Yes, we're gonna hold on temporary promotions, you said?
Yes, sir, and management rights. I believe that those were the two that we identified specifically that needed some definitions. And so if we come across some other ones that may be impacting,
What did you need a definition for in management rights?
I don't know, but in my notes, it said hold for definitions.
Okay.
That was just part of the discussion.
Okay. That'll work.
But that's what I have in my notes. So I guess we'll table that and have that ready for the next meeting on December 2nd? Okay. My first one, I guess that I wanted to, if we want to just kind of skip right or jump right into it, would be to discuss the recognition clause. I believe that there was very little change to that particular one. We did add any reference to employees, members of the bargaining unit or firefighter shall apply to an individual subject to the terms of this agreement, regardless of their rank in the department or membership status in the union. And I believe that that particular section was the holdup. So we'd like to start by discussing that one.
Our discussion was that that's pretty much redundant language and we don't believe that it's necessary. So our stance is to strike section 3, proposed section 3.
So I guess I would like further, clarification on why it's redundant. If it wasn't expressed in the previous meeting, I'd like to reiterate it now, that we have had members who have separated from the union and I guess attempted to use alternative means for grievances, and we want to make it clear that regardless of the status of membership, that they still have to be bound by the contract.
Correct. I mean, they're part of everybody's part of the bargain unit except the fire chief. That's state
Correct.
statute.
Which
So
is why we're proposing the language.
We still represent you as part of the bargaining unit, even though you're not a member of the union. You
Correct.
don't pay dues, so
Correct.
that's understood. So that's why
So
my thought is that,
what you say is understood has not been the practice, which is why I think it needs to be added, even if it warrants redundancy or repetition. Like I said, it's been an issue here, and I think sometimes clarifying language in a document is better, even if it's redundant, to address the smaller issues.
we can caucus on that just so we can get on the same page as to.
Is it possible for us to have a response for that after lunch? It's a
Well,
very small,
After caucus, I think we're only going 4 hours today, right?
we said if we needed to go longer.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, today I've scheduled a half day. Maybe I misunderstood.
I think at the
My
last
flight
meeting.
leaves at 2 o'clock,
Okay,
so I got until 1, I guess, at the very latest.
understood.
Does that leave from Beaumont?
Yes,
Okay.
I'm leaving from Beaumont. It didn't work out for me to come into Houston today, so.
No, we want you to,
What's that?
we want you to use Beaumont when you can. And there's not a long wait at the airport.
Thank you. But
next-
yes, we'll discuss on our end, and we'll have word for you after we caucus. How's that?
Okay. The next one would be union business. Again, very small changes to this one. I believe the major change was to have a list by one day. And then we added information in section 5 that this includes, or I guess clarifying what that would look like in terms of union business. This could also be one that we hold for definitions, because I will tell you that the language added in section 5 is just to clarify what the city believes is union business. And so open to discussion on that one as well.
We have a counter on that. Did you
Okay.
want to go over it? And
Yeah,
then
I
we
can pull it up on the jump drive. Give me a
And then after you look at it, we can agree to hold for definitions. But that way you can see where we're proposing, or our counter would be.
Which one is there? Oh, no, it's the wrong jump drive, that's why. Hold on. Let me check this one. Okay, gentlemen, I'll turn it over to you to walk us through your counters.
Walking us through.
So starting in section 1, I believe we've already agreed to that language within 5 days of any changes or after their designation. Is that correct? I just added the language in there that we talked about in the last meeting for that. And then struck the last bit after designation due to redundancy.
Was that 5 business days, Cody? I think it was
Yes.
business
Yes,
days.
5
Was it
business days.
okay? That's fine. I'll fix that on my end.
So I guess for section 5, depending on the definition section, I think we can, again, determine whether or not that language is necessary.
But we have a counter, we can talk through it, and if you don't agree, then we can address it however you'd like to address it moving forward.
That was me addressing it. That,
Do you want to talk about the whole counter, or do you just
no,
want to
I'm fine with, I'm fine with the language. Like I said, the addition within 5, I think we said business days. So we can add that change, but as it relates to section 5, that language was added to, I guess, define what we consider union business to be. So if we have a definition for union business that we can agree on, then we can obviously agree to strike that language. If not, I think it's relevant.
Okay, well, yeah, that was the point of the counter. We don't see it as relevant. And we see it as limiting our ability to do the business of the union. If you put that language in there, then it limits pretty much everything that we would need to do, because you put not limited to, and that leaves it open to anything. So then we would not be released for anything except for what's in section 2. And what's in section 2 is a very small number of things. We don't see there being a problem with this right now. And like you said, with your argument for the second assistant chief, as the department grows, as the membership grows, we have added responsibilities. We need the ability to take care of our members and take care of the business of our union. We're not talking about a lot of time anyway. We don't use a whole lot of time for union business. So it doesn't seem on our end to really be a problem. We're not looking to limit our abilities.
So we'll just hold that one for definition section for the next meeting on potentially December 2nd.
Sure.
Thanks.
The employees are expected, can you just clarify, just so we know for sure moving forward, is that the RFT form, or what is he wanting from that?
Yes, so there will most likely become a separate form generated if that impacts this, but we'll be cleaning up that form to include that
So it's a new form?
potentially.
Did we see that form before we agree to it?
It would be similar to the one that you have. I believe the RFT return to work form is very general. We'll have a specific form dedicated to that, but sure.
Okay.
It'll be modeled after the RFT.
Yes, sir.
Okay. That was our question.
Okay. I'm gonna bounce.
Did you want to move on down to the bottom? Do you want to talk about anything else on this, or are y'all just gonna hold it?
No, I think we wanted to agree to the section as a whole, so we didn't have any other. I think the biggest section would be section 5. The rest of the changes, if we can agree on that, would be fine.
Okay.
Okay.
So the status of this one is you received our counter and now we're holding.
We're going to wait until we receive the full definition section so that we can determine whether or not the language in section 5 is necessary.
Okay.
Or we can discuss further ways to modify it if necessary. So I have it, just so we have it in my notes, we have it slated for definitions to be discussed at the next meeting on December 2nd.
Okay.
Okay.
Hold till December 2nd. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Moving along.
The next one I have is the strikeout, no lockout. There were no changes. I don't know how I missed that one, but there were no changes to this section at all. And so if there's no additional changes by the union, we'd like to schedule that one for TA.
All it is was just language cleanup, correct?
Yes, sir. So
Typo and then-
instead of it saying city, it now says employer. We also added the capitalizations of agreement to be consistent throughout.
Okay. I don't see an issue. Yeah, I've notes that it's okay to go ahead and TA that.
Okay. The next one was the mileage one. Sorry, I'm trying to get there. So previously we had proposed taking it out, and I know that there was some concern about that. So to answer the question, it would not impact workers' comp. And it would not, how it would work as relates to insurance would be the same as our other employees who drive personal vehicles for work. The primary insurance of the employee would kick in first, and then the city's insurance would be secondary. Understanding that that might be a cause for concern, we're willing to propose the following amendment to that section that just reads, when no alternative is available, the department will transport all personnel.
And you would add that to,
To section 1, so it would just be the lead into that sentence would say, when no alternative is available, the department shall transport all personnel who are transferred between stations on a temporary basis. So the rest of the language remain the
the
same.
language remains with the addition of with no alternative available?
Yeah,
Okay, we're gonna discuss that in caucus.
okay.
Have word for you.
Also, I believe it says this provision, it would say this article does not apply, or this section does not apply. Instead of provision, it should say section. That would be the only other change that needs to be made in that one. So I will mark that one for caucus, and we will, I guess when we take a break, we can discuss that afterwards.
Okay,
Last one was the negotiations to commence clause. Again, the date, let me just get there for 1 second.
the negotiations to commence, page 28.
Yes, sir. So the only language that was added is the union agrees to a written proposal for an increase in monetary compensation of any kind shall be submitted to the employer no later than January 1, 2028. This implies a 4-year agreement. I think that's something that we all initially committed to. So if that's one you want to TA or schedule for caucus for today.
What's scheduled for caucus? So the change would be the date only, June 1, 2028?
So in section 1, we added, we changed team to terms, obviously a correction on that, and then we added section 2.
Okay, this is a new one, okay.
So yeah, section 2 is a completely new one with the date, January 1. And all that would require the union to do is put in writing, not their full, but just whatever monetary changes they wanted to make. So pension contributions, that January 1 date is when we start working on budget.
Yeah, there's already something in the law that says 128
It does,
for the end of the fiscal year.
it does, but it doesn't require written, so we're asking for it in writing.
I believe it does require writing. Written.
It just says that the union will provide notice. So we're asking for specifically a written proposal of an increase.
Okay, and you usually propose it in writing anyway, right? Okay.
And what usually happens is the union sends an email saying that they want to start negotiations. We're specifically asking for a written proposal for increase in monetary compensation specifically. The previous emails have just said that they want to start negotiations, and I'm assuming it's implied that they will request a raise. What we're asking for specifically, if there's any increase in monetary compensation, that be put in writing for budget purpose.
I assume that was already stated in the local government code. If you're gonna ask for an economic benefit,
It just says economic benefit, but it doesn't require that it be in writing. It doesn't require how it should be expressed.
okay.
And I can tell you that if we're going to debate case law, there's some case law that just,
I'm not here to debate case law.
'Cause I'm ready.
I'm just pointing to the fact that
yeah, so
we're already under a statute that we know and understand requires notification.
well,
Economic benefit means money.
it does. So in previous arbitrations and rulings, it's just said any notice, and if that's part of the contract that is provided. So what this particular provision says is that they would have to provide specifics on that. There's no requirement under the statute to provide specifics. So this one would be specifically them putting in writing what monetary increases that they wanted.
They'd have to specify which monetary increase.
They would have to say, we want
general.
an increase in our pension, we want an increase in our wages, we want an increase in certification pay. We want an increase in credential pay. It wouldn't necessarily require them to outline in detail what those increases look like, but it would specifically say, you know, we want these increases.
Okay. We'll get back to you on our caucus.
Okay.
Counter on, did we present all counters we were going to present or we were going to hold?
I have the counters on the document, so those are all the ones we kind of want to clean up. Potentially, I'll turn it over to y'all to go through the rest of the counters. Just allow me to pull them up.
Okay.
Just tell me where you want to start.
Article 10. You good? So we didn't have any suggested changes for section 1. Section 2 starting in, I guess, subsection A. You guys had the assistant chief as the chair of the committee. Historically, this Health and Safety Committee has always been a joint committee so that the union and the employer can work through safety-related issues. It's not about somebody being in charge of it. It's a collaboration to speak about safety issues within the department. If you create a chair position, that's okay, because you need somebody to keep order, keep notes, that sort of thing. We think if we're going to do that, then rotate that chair committee position amongst all the members to give all the members buy-in and ownership of their position on the committee. On top of that, if you make the assistant chief a fourth person or an extra person for the employer, then it's no longer a joint committee.
So our idea was that he wouldn't participate in like the voting process. He would be there in, as you mentioned, in an administrative capacity to take notes and organize the meeting.
It doesn't say that in there.
We can clarify that, but that was the intent, was to just, in practice, the chair doesn't, in practice, in Robert's Rules of Order, the chair usually runs the meeting. It's typically not a voting participant.
Right, so that's not what's in here. So our counter is what you see there. If you guys want to bring something back, we're okay with that. We can move on. Letter D. We just added language in. It specifically has said the union representatives, while they're off duty, would not be paid. If anybody is being paid, all of the bargaining unit members should be paid because that's who's on the committee. They're all bargaining unit members. So the employer is using our bargaining unit members for the employer's representatives. We're using our bargaining unit members for the union representatives. So they're all bargaining unit members. So if anybody's going to get paid, we propose that they all be paid overtime for that position. It also, encourages, them to be there and take it seriously and make sure that they do an efficient job at it. I think the whole idea there is just for, fair and equitable treatment for all the bargaining unit members. Under physical exam, you guys added the random drug screening, and maybe you can specify that in a minute. We just don't see any reason for that. We already have multiple policies on drug screening, so if somebody is, if there's a suspicion that somebody is under the influence of any kind of substance, there's already a policy for that. If somebody gets in a wreck, there's already a policy for a drug screening. So we're open to hear you guys' reasoning behind wanting to add a random drug screening, but that's never been a problem. So we don't see it being a reason to add language into the contract when we already have policies on that. Again, that's one of those policy issues that we were talking about earlier.
Did you want me to respond now, or do you want to?
I can either go through the whole thing and then you
yeah.
can respond, or you can respond now. It doesn't matter to me. However you want to do it.
As it relates to the drug screening policy, I believe that you're right, there is some policies that relate to that. We wanted to align it to the current city policy, just so that there was no confusion. But also, there's been several incidences of intoxication, suspicion of drug use in the department. So we wanted to add it to the contract to make sure that there was no misunderstanding about the chief's or any of the district or deputy chief's ability to send someone for drug screening.
Well, there's not really any question in that. There's already a policy for that.
Again, we
For
wanted
what
it
you just said.
Again, we wanted it to align with the city's policy, because I believe it addresses some CBA issues, or I'm sorry, what is it called? Marijuana issues under the, whatever it's called now, cannabis oils and some other things that's not addressed in your policy, but also wanted to include it into the contract so that there's no misunderstandings as it relates to the chief's ability to send someone for drug screening.
Yeah, I don't
But again,
think,
we can discuss that further.
sure.
No, they don't.
I was asking,
Yeah, so also,
since I'm not
we
familiar
have,
with it.
we have drug screening as a part of the department, but y'all don't have random, so it's just based on suspicion. So the random would also be a new addition as well. So the law allows for random drug testing of anyone in a safety-sensitive position. And civil servants represent that.
So you're proposing a random drug screening for firefighters?
Yes.
And will there have to be a policy addressing all the intricacies of the random drug screening?
It would align with the city's current policy, but yes, we can determine how that relates to specifically fire.
Can I get copies of those so I can
Yes.
familiarize myself with them? Because a random drug testing policy
Steph.
is a pretty in-depth, intricate piece of work, because you've got to outline, levels, you've got to outline the testing facility and all the certifications required for that testing facility. So it's pretty in-depth, I guess, language in a policy like that. So if you have that, I'd like to see it,
Sure.
please.
Moving on.
From
We still have some left in that.
3? Okay, go ahead.
Section 3, we're okay with the assistant chief being the chair of the committee of that one. It makes sense. It's a policy committee. Chiefs make policy. The union doesn't. So we like the opportunity for a collaborative effort towards the policy creation and amendment. I think it worked good before. I was particularly a part of it before whenever we had it, and it was very productive, I thought, while it lasted. So we're good with that one. Under D, the fire chief shall have final approval over all policies. We just proposed some language to add that any of the policies discussed in that meeting would just be further discussed between the fire chief, city management, and the union executive board before actually implementing it. Just because those policies that have to do with our benefits are fall under maintenance of standards. They're contractual issues at that point. So it'd just be good for everybody to be on the same page whenever it's all done before we go and implement those, just to avoid any issues. And then same language there on E, fair and equitable treatment for all of our bargaining unit members.
Hours and overtime?
Sure, moving fast. So you can see in section B that we struck the language there. We don't believe that's doing anybody any good. Like we talked about in the last meeting, that division was under budget on overtime as
I'm
opposed to
sorry,
the.
are you in section 1?
I'm in the whole article. I'm just explaining one thing before I get to that.
Oh, okay.
But I can go ahead and talk about that. We added a number 2 under section 1A, proposing that all employees offered overtime receive an option for the overtime outright or comp time. I know comp time was done away with before. Comp time is an opportunity right now for us to save a little bit of money in the city's budget currently. I know you have to pay it in the long run, but currently if we can have that option, I think a lot of our members would take that, and that would help from a budgetary concern. I know that's been talked about a lot as far as overtime being a problem for the city's budget. So comp time's just an offer there, to try to help with some of that. On the short end, it can obviously be addressed later on whenever we're through all the short staffing. And once we've gotten past that and we're not looking at, millions of dollars in overtime. But with that, like I was saying, in section 2B, that proposed language to change the schedule, like I said, it's not truly helping anybody. It's only hurting the division by making one of the supervisors in the division work every weekend. And it's not going to solve anything. So that division was already under budget last year. And maybe it would be good. I think, in the last meeting, it was stated that there was an abuse of overtime, and that's a pretty aggressive accusation, especially given that division was under budget and our operations division was over budget by a couple of $1 million. So I think it would probably be helpful for us to move forward and maybe address that and see why that was said, or maybe that was a misspoken statement. But we kind of take issue with the fact that it was said that we're abusing overtime.
Okay, so I don't believe operations, according to the chief, was over budget, but, okay.
It wasn't over budget $2 million last year.
No, not when you account for vacancies. So I believe that was,
Okay. You guys want to talk about the abuse of overtime? I mean, you said it. So
I did, but I don't think there's anything to discuss. I said what I said.
You don't? Okay. You don't want to explain it. That's fine.
I can.
I don't think that's productive, what you're doing.
It's not. Neither is vacuum chatter.
Yeah.
Let's move on. The next counter.
Is the promotions and temporary promotions.
Got a clarifying question on comp time or overtime. Would that be in line with the city's existing overtime or comp time policy with it being capped?
Yeah, if I could see that policy as well, I mean, it would have to align with, I guess it's FLSA. There's caps on the federal, Kelly? Am I on the right track? There's a cap on comp time, is that in FLSA?
You're talking about the FLSA?
Okay, yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. Yeah, it would be in accordance with FLSA.
Thank you.
No, you're welcome.
Right, temporary promotions, only changes there. We struck through all of your additional language aside from the simple word changes. Striking through the double upgrades shall not be permitted in operations. It's unnecessary unless the fire administration's planning on having someone work two classifications outside of their grade. So if there's a plan on that happening, then putting that language in here it's not gonna solve anything. So the only reason that you would need to put that in there is if there was a plan on someone working two classifications outside of their grade. So if a driver's planning on being a chief, or if a firefighter's planning on being a captain, there's just no reason for that language. Section 5 and 6, again, we talked about the policy committee before. I think Joe kind of touched on the policy issue with you guys earlier. These are policy issues, and we would just rather see them go to policy and be discussed there. And again, we can work that out in the long run, but specifically, I explained a lot on section 5 and 6 at the last meeting. It doesn't do anybody any good by making that upgrade mandatory. And section 6 doesn't, like I said last meeting, they're not done with the schedule by 8 routinely anyway.
So, again, the contract is intended to address both problems that are existing, but also potential future problems, reading the tea leaves, if you will. So I do believe that the language that's added in section 1 has come up and is necessary. As it relates to section 5, that was previously mandatory upgrades was previously a policy. I believe it was eliminated under Chief Huff. And as it relates to section 6, in speaking with some of the deputy chiefs and with the chief, the schedule last week was done almost routinely before 7:30. I believe that there are some changes that could be made up until that time, but I don't believe that 8 o'clock is a stretch. So obviously we can discuss that internally amongst ourselves to see how the necessity of it. But I think that was all the counters that y'all had.
Yes, ma'am. Good for caucus.
Great time for a caucus.
Excellent.
So we'll go for 30 minutes, and if needed, we'll communicate that. It's okay to call you if I need to call you. Okay, so make sure we've exchanged information.
We got that straightened out, right? I've got your number and you got mine.
Yeah,
Mr. Williams, you tried to call me last time when I was back there, and I didn't have a signal. I just
Okay.
but so if I don't answer, yeah.
Okay, just make sure we have clear way to communicate while.
Yeah, if we don't answer, then we can go
Cody.
look for you, or you can look for us.
You're good.
Welcome.
Okay, we'll reconvene. And if Local 399, if you want to report out on your caucus.
Yes, we were going to talk about the recognition clause. We're good with that, with your proposed language.
Okay, let me just, give me a second to pull it up so we can put it on the screen for everybody.
And that would be the addition of section 3, correct?
Sorry, going the wrong way. So Article 3 would include the addition of Section 3, but also changes in the new Section 4 to include neutral from neuter.
Yes, of course.
And then I think that there was, in Section 1, instead of in the event, it just says if legislation is amended.
Section 1. Okay,
Okay.
if legislation,
Yeah, instead of in the event.
okay.
Okay, perfect.
Recognition is good. We're good to TA on that one.
Perfect. And then we had an agreement on lockout, so the next one would be mileage.
It's page 18, right?
Yes, sir.
And then you wanted to add,
So the language would read, when no alternative is available at the proceeding.
and you reinstate section 1 with the additional language with no alternative available.
Yes, sir.
Okay, we're good with that.
Okay. And then last one was the notice to commence negotiations.
Oh, we had the assistant chief into the pay table.
Yes, sir.
We're good with that.
Okay, perfect.
The title of assistant chief into the pay or wage table, whatever we want to call it.
Yeah, I will add that. So when you see that one on the TA, it will specifically say that it's only the addition of the assistant chief being added, that no wages, they're already marked out, so it
We're
won't.
not ready to discuss wages.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
So it'll be crossed out, so I just want to make sure that that's clear.
Okay.
Um,
And before we got started, I was having a little discussion with you on this.
Yes, so-
negotiation to commence.
Right, and so just for the record, we did talk about the city manager wanting to amend Section 2 to clarify written notice to be a certified letter, just because in the past, it's been via email, and that's not his preferred method of communication. We also discussed, I think, amending Section 1, instead of it saying Section 174, I think you wanted just 105, you wanted it to say 107. I'm fine with it just saying Chapter 174 in its entirety.
Okay.
So we can,
We're good with the referencing the complete statute.
so we can just change, instead of it saying Section 174, it'll just say Chapter 174. And then Section 2 will say that the union agrees that written notice,
In the form of a
certified letter, written proposal in the form of a certified letter.
That was confusion last time. That way they keeps it down. Email sometimes the worst way to communicate. That way you'll know city received it, and you will definitely have proof that it was received.
Okay, so I think it was, I heard proposal. I think we could take out the word proposal and just change it to notice.
Yes.
But I think we need to be clear that it needs to say what specifically, not the percentage wise, but for example, if you want to discuss wages, pension, increases in insertive pay, that your written notice would need to include that. The current statute only provides that you provide notice that you want to talk about items that involve compensation. It doesn't tell you which ones. And so we're asking for more clarification on that for preparation purposes. So I don't know how you want to word that.
Okay. I mean, in principle, we agree. Do you want to wait for us to put something together, or
So I guess we can leave it.
we can put it on hold for next
Yeah, the
meeting?
union agrees that that written notice, and it'll say that the union agrees that a written notice for the increase in monetary compensation of any kind shall be submitted to employer no later than June 1st, 2028. I guess we can determine or define what that looks like.
Well, yeah, I
we can
can come
TA.
back in our next meeting. It'll include, well, you're requesting a certified letter, right?
Yes, sir.
We can put in the form of a certified letter. I don't think we have an issue with that.
So I will send you, like I did last time, the ones that we're TAing with the language, so you'll have a chance to look at it. So I think it worked good this time that we maximized our time on that. And so at the next December 2nd meeting, I think that we're starting at 9.
Okay, let me. December 2nd, we said all day, right, starting at 9?
So we'll start at 9. If the union can have the proposed definitions, we'll TA those agreements, but with proposed definitions, I think that would help as well.
We'll be working on those in the meantime.
Okay.
Let me just make sure here. Okay, so December 2nd, all day, starting at 9.
Yes, sir.
We said the 3rd, 9 to noon, correct?
Yes, sir.
And then the 4th, 9 to noon.
Yes, sir.
Okay. I will say that we're not available on the 6th,
Okay.
and then I will check on, what was it, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th, right? Did you?
It was December 10th and 11th.
Okay, 10th and 11th. I'll get back to you. The 10th is good, the 11th, possible half day. I'll
Okay.
need to move some things around.
Okay.
But I will communicate that with you ASAP.
Okay.
That way we're on the same page.
Okay. So at the conclusion of the meeting, I will make sure that or at some time throughout this week, I will get you a copy of the TA agreements and then also forward you those requested policies, I believe, for random
Yes,
drug
yes.
testing and comp time, the comp time policy.
Comp time, and then you were gonna shoot me the city's random.
Yes, sir. I started with
Policy?
that. So we'll be providing the random drug testing policy in the email as well as comp time policy. I think that those were the only two you requested.
I think so.
Okay. To Mr. Neeson's question, the department has 285 employees. And that's broken down into 36 EMS employees. EMS currently has 9 vacancies. There are 11 civilian positions. Those are mostly admin positions, and they're completely full with 0 vacancies. And then there are 238 sworn positions, and the vacancies are only the 17 we discussed this morning, and the firefighters are grade ones.
Go ahead.
What was the city's total budgeted for in employees?
Oh, I didn't get that. I only got the number of departments. I'll have that. I'll provide that. So you wanted
Please.
the budgeted number. I thought you just wanted the total in the department.
I'm sorry, I may not have clarified, but
Okay,
but
so-
I'd appreciate it.
So, but budgeted dollars with that breakdown.
No, just the number of budgeted employees
Oh, so
for the city, and preferably not including any part-time employees that are in EMS. I don't know if there are, if
I believe
you're-
that they do. They still have. I'll confirm. I think that there are still some part-time, but I don't know how many, and if that's either in the 9. We're not, as part-time employees fall off, we're not filling those positions anymore.
Okay, yeah, I just wanted to make sure in these numbers that there weren't part-time employees included in there.
So they might, we only count full-time employees, so these are full-time employees, but I can double check.
Okay.
I'll double check and make sure that 36 doesn't include part-time.
And you said 285 currently right now with our staffing, we have 285?
I believe that's how many you have total in the department. Total is 285.
285 total.
And so Is that the data, just to confirm, we just need to follow up and make sure that the 36 number doesn't include part-time, right?
Right, that doesn't include any part-time personnel.
Okay. Okay, I'll get that.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
I think that's all we had. I don't want to beat a dead horse, but let's get the dates straight again.
Yes, so,
Uh-oh. Trouble with having all these pockets is you forget where you put stuff.
So December 2nd, we have it all day. We're proposing to start at 9 again, if that works for you.
Yes, perfect.
On December 3rd, we have it available from 9 to noon.
9 to noon?
Yes.
And then you said December 4th is no longer available.
December 4th is no longer available, but December 5th is available from 9 to noon.
Okay. And then you mentioned the 6th, but we're not available on the
So I
6th.
took the 6th off. December 10th is available all day, and December 11th, you said half a day. So we would do,
Right now it's available all day, correct?
it's available all day?
Okay, let me see if I can move some stuff around, and I'll get back to you. I'd like to preferably move stuff around and be able to be here all day.
Okay,
But if not, then we'll have to do a half day on that day.
okay, and I'm assuming that's a half day in the morning?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay,
Was that the 11th?
yes, sir.
Okay.
And I'll get back to you on that ASAP.
Okay, and we're proposing to start at 9.
9's good. Also,
It is.
there's the 2nd, 3rd, and then you also proposed the 5th, 9 to noon, correct?
Yes, so the only half days that we have scheduled right now are the 3rd and the 5th, both starting at 9.
Okay, and I'll need to get authorization on that for the 5th, but I'll let you know. And
What about
we'll
the
tentatively schedule.
He said he's moving some things around
Okay,
on
you
the
gotta move
11th,
something.
and so he'll let me know. So we're waiting for him to verify those dates.
So I think we're good on the dates we're looking at, correct?
Okay, yes, sir.
And then we'll have the extension agreement to sign.
We'll have it drafted at the next meeting, just
Okay,
as a.
that'll work.
As a ready-to-go document. If we don't need it, even better.
Yes.
So we're looking to have that for your review at the next meeting.
Yes, ma'am.
If we need to execute it, but specifically for December 2nd, we're going to be TAing those articles that we agreed on today, and then going through some definitions so that we can move through the rest of the contract.
Sounds good. And then we'll review everything. If something comes up, I'll get a hold of you.
Okay. And likewise from this end. So clarity, our next meeting is December 2nd,
Yes, starting at 9 all day.
all day. Okay. Are there any other issues
No, sir, I think we're good
today?
on our end.
Okay, well, thank you. Thank you for your time, and thank you for your patience and working with each other. And we look forward to meeting again on December 2nd and continue
Yes,
to
sir.
get this done.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Very good. Thank you very much.
This meeting is adjourned.